What's up everyone? Welcome to Ashley Talks Movies. Today's video is a review of Captain America: Brave New World. It's the latest entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it comes from director Julius Onah, who also directed a movie called Lose several years ago, which I actually liked, and a movie called Cloverfield Paradox, which I didn't like at all. Anthony Mackie stars as Sam Wilson, who has now taken on the mantle of Captain America. As Sam balances the responsibility of the mantle while also trying to keep the world safe, he's soon enlisted by newly elected President Thaddeus Ross, played here by Harrison Ford, to help with a peace treaty. But an assassination attempt puts everything in jeopardy, and Cap must figure out who's the mastermind behind a plan that could plunge the world into chaos. Before I jump into the review, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. That way you don't miss any of the videos I post here on the channel.
You and I haven't always agreed in the past, but I want to make another run at making Captain America an official military position.
And if we disagree on how to manage this situation, then what happens?
Work with me, Sam.
There's been a lot of anticipation around this movie, not just because it's a new Marvel movie. Of course, people get excited when there's a new Marvel movie, but also this is the solo outing for Sam Wilson's Captain America in a Marvel movie. And I think also for a lot of fans, this movie comes with a lot of question marks because a lot of the movies in the last phase of the MCU have been hit or miss. Right? It's been a mixed bag. Some of them have been good, some of them have been not so good. And I think a lot of people are hoping that this movie and even subsequent movies can be sort of a return to form. Now, Captain America: Brave New World doesn't quite reach the heights of some of the previous Marvel movies, some of the great Marvel movies like Captain America: Winter Soldier or even Captain America: Civil War. But I think it does a decent job of bridging the gap between some of those past movies and setting things up for what's next. And it is doing a lot to tie up some plot points from previous movies like The Incredible Hulk, even The Eternals, and some other movies. And there's plenty of nods and references to those things. And I really think this movie is solid. Speaking of Winter Soldier, Brave New World is structured very similarly to that movie. It has this conspiracy thriller vibe, although it doesn't fully commit to it, and that's a shame. But it does do a pretty decent job of setting that tone. Now, this is the first outing for Sam Wilson's Captain America in a Marvel movie, and I think Anthony Mackie is more than up to the task of taking on that mantle. He is fantastic here. He really shines here, and there should be no doubt that he's capable of playing this character. And it's important to remember that his Captain America is not the Steve Rogers Captain America. And I think he does a really good job of establishing that. And he also brings his vulnerability to this role. One of the running themes throughout this movie is that Sam Wilson is constantly doubting himself in his ability to be Captain America, even as other characters in the movie are doubting his abilities. And a lot of that feels true to life. I remember when Sam Wilson was set up to be the next Captain America, the mantle was being passed down and fans reacted, some positively, some negatively to that bit of information. And, some who reacted negatively said, "Not my Cap." And so it really does feel like the writers here pulled from real life to kind of add that element to the story. And I think Mackie does a really great job of, again, showing that vulnerability and also, showing a character that has his doubts, but also who's trying really, really hard to do the best that he can. He understands the weight and the responsibility attached to that mantle, and he wants, to continue that legacy, and he doesn't want to fail. Danny Ramirez is great as Joaquin Torres, the new Falcon, and he has this infectious energy, and he really brings it to the screen. And he and Mackie play really well off of each other. In fact, they have this big brother, little brother type of relationship, and, the mentor and the mentee. And he is a really great sidekick in this movie. Harrison Ford plays Thaddeus Ross. He's taken over the role from the late William Hurt. And I think Ford does a really great job of making this character his own. And honestly, I think his performance is one of the standouts in this movie. And in fact, the Thaddeus Ross storyline in this movie, I think, feels the most fleshed out. He is just fully committed to this, and he seems to be having a lot of fun. Giancarlo Esposito is also really good in this movie as Sidewinder, although we don't really get enough of him. He's kind of relegated as just a side character, but you know, with what little he's given, I think he just really brings it, and I really wish there could have been more to him and we could have seen more of him in the movie. Carl Lumbly is Isaiah Bradley, one of the forgotten super soldiers. You know, he played this character in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series, and he is also really great here, and he brings a lot of emotional heft to this movie, and I think he did a fantastic job, and I really wish there could have been more of him in this movie as well. I really like the style of this movie, and this kind of goes back to, you know, when I was talking about the conspiracy thriller vibes that this movie has, and the camera movements in particular kind of reflect that. There's some Dutch angles, the way the camera moves in and out of specific rooms I thought was really effective, and the action sequences were actually pretty good. There was some really bad CGI throughout this movie, and it was very distracting. Not all of it was bad, but the parts of it that were bad were really bad. Some of it looked like the type of CGI you would find in a streaming series, you know, a streaming series that might not quite have the budget of a big movie. That's not what I was really expecting for a movie of this size and scale. Now, I think the biggest and most glaring problem with this movie is the story and the way it's structured. And this movie has 5 writers that were credited with writing this script. And I think in some cases it's really clear that, you know, there were a lot of different people who were working on the story, and a lot of it feels sort of cobbled together, very disjointed, and it doesn't really feel cohesive. That's really the case with the first half of this movie, which is just weighed down by exposition. There are times where characters are literally just talking about things rather than showing certain things. But I think once you get to the second half, things really start to even out, and it felt like the plot was a lot clearer, at least to me, and all the characters and everything really had it sort of hit their groove. The movie starts to really hit in terms of the pacing. I think it really starts to wrap up together, and I think things that were referenced and mentioned in the first half of the movie that may have seemed unclear start to make a lot more sense once you get to the end. And then there is that payoff where things start to come together and it sets up what's next. So overall, I think Captain America Brave New World is a solid movie. It's entertaining, has some really good action sequences. I thought the acting was good, and I think Anthony Mackie did a really great job of taking on that Captain America mantle and really trying to do his own thing with it. And yeah, the story is a mess, and it really would have helped if more time had been spent on really making that plot less convoluted. But I think, you know, this movie does a decent job. It doesn't reach the heights of some of those great MCU movies, but I still think it's a solid entry. So those are my thoughts on Captain America Brave New World. Do you plan on watching the movie in theaters? Are you excited about it? Let me know in the comments while you're here. Like and subscribe, and stick around for more videos like this.